Defying quarantine. A nurse who treated Ebola patients takes a bike ride with her boyfriend, insisting she has no symptoms. Midterms matter. How your vote could make the difference on crucial issues and in key races next Tuesday. Choosing life. An Oregon woman with cancer decides there is joy in living after all. And brilliant artwork. The timeless treasures of the Sistine Chapel are now seen in a new light. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Thursday, October 30th, 2014. Good evening from Washington. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick with your news now. A nurse who treated Ebola patients is supposed to stay inside a home in Maine. Well, today she defied those orders. Jason Calvi is joining us now, covering this ongoing story.
Brian, the governor of Maine says hours of negotiations with nurse Casey Hickox have broken down. But for a little while this morning, the nurse left her quarantine in Maine. An hour-long bike ride, mobbed by the media, and trailed by a state police cruiser. 33-year-old nurse Casey Hickox is out of confinement. Maine's government officials have asked her and other health workers who come in contact with Ebola patients to voluntarily isolate themselves for 21 days.
There are other cases where individuals have not tested positive, did not believe that they were symptomatic, and quickly developed symptoms while they were out in the public.
When Hickox returned from treating Ebola patients in Sierra Leone, she was forced to stay in this tent in New Jersey. Hickox says her civil rights are being violated, and her lawyer says she is no threat.
There's absolutely no justification for the state of Maine to quarantine Casey. She doesn't have the symptoms, and the medical community continues to tell us that as long as she doesn't have the symptoms, she's not at risk with regard to being contagious to other people in Maine.
But at least one neighbor here is concerned about Hickox stepping out.
It's a simple thing. Stay in the quarantine till it's over, and we're good.
The NIH says the forced quarantines of medical workers could impact the Ebola fight in West Africa.
We're concerned that healthcare workers who are donating their own time, when they come back and have no scientific reason why they should be quarantined, that will be a disincentive for them to go.
Maine's governor now says since negotiations with the nurse broke down, he's ready, he says, to use all of his authority to protect the public. State law there allows a judge to force someone into quarantine if health officials can show there's an immediate threat to the public. Brian?
Complicated issue. Thank you, Jason. Now some of the other stories our EWTN News Nightly team has been covering in today's world. At least 4 people are killed as a small plane crashes into a Wichita, Kansas airport building. The fire chief in the city confirmed that 3 of the people killed were in the building when the plane crashed. The 4th body is believed to be that of the pilot. The Federal Aviation Administration says engine trouble was reported just after takeoff from Mid-Continent Airport. The pilot apparently was trying to return to the runway when the plane crashed into the building. Kurdish Peshmerga fighters are now entering the Syrian border town of Kobani from neighboring Turkey. They will help fight the Islamic State militants there. On-the-ground reports say 10 Peshmerga fighters have entered Kobani with another 140 to follow. The battle for control of Kobani on Syria's border with Turkey has been raging now for weeks. Nobel Peace Prize laureate Malala Yousafzai has donated $50,000 to rebuild a UN school in Gaza. The school was heavily damaged during the summer's clashes between Israel and Hamas. Malala has championed education, saying that, quote, without education, there will never be peace. The 17-year-old won the Nobel Peace Prize this year for promoting the rights of girls in her native Pakistan. She survived a Taliban assassination attempt just 2 years ago. The beauty of the Sistine Chapel has awed visitors for centuries, and with a new makeover, will continue for many years to come. The Vatican unveils a state-of-the-art lighting and air conditioning system designed to bring out the best in the chapel's historic frescoes. The LED lights draw out the deep blue background of Michelangelo's Last Judgment, and of course they better display the lives of Moses and of Jesus Christ along the chapel walls. The new systems also help protect the frescoes from heat, dirt, and even the breath coming from the nearly 6 million visitors each year.
If you look at this art in the Sistine Chapel, it's just breathtaking. But ironically, it's the act of breathing, our exhaling carbon dioxide, that was destroying the frescoes. We have the technology that we apply today, the advanced technology that is preserving the frescoes, and it's keeping the chapel open for generations to come.
The 3-year project cost about $4 million, but the LED technology will save the Vatican more than 80% in energy costs. Midterms matter. As we continue our EWTN News Nightly coverage of election 2014, Suzanne LaFranchi joins us from the White House tonight, breaking down Tuesday's showdown for the Senate. Suzanne?
Democratic candidates continue to get a final push from the White House. With just days to go before the midterm elections, polls continue to predict that the Republicans will win the Senate, giving them control of both houses. Here's a snapshot of what's at stake. The current Senate makeup, 53 Democrats, 45 Republicans, and 2 independents who caucus with Democrats. This election, 36 Senate seats are at stake, 21 currently held by Democrats and 15 by Republicans. Republicans need a net gain of 6 seats to take control of the Senate. Polls show a number of toss-up states highlighted in gray on the map. Americans will be watching a few key races. In Colorado, Republican Cory Gardner may be poised to overtake Democrat Mark Udall. That's despite Udall getting help on the campaign trail from big Democratic names like Hillary Clinton. Udall's approval ratings have been sinking, and Gardner appears to be a rising star in the Republican Party. Gardner's election could be a victory for pro-lifers. He's pushed for a personhood amendment for the unborn. It's been an extremely tight race between independent challenger Greg Orman, a Kansas businessman, and Republican Senator Pat Roberts. Much of their campaigns have centered on agricultural issues. But what's most interesting is if Orman wins. It's unclear whether he would caucus with Democrats or Republicans. That could leave historically Republican Kansas with the power to decide who has the Senate majority. Another corporate executive, Republican David Perdue, has been defending his business record in Georgia. Critics say he's out of touch and too willing to ship jobs overseas. He faces Democrat Michelle Nunn. She's a former nonprofit CEO and daughter of legendary former U.S. Senator Sam Nunn. Perdue claims that Nunn will be a, quote, Obama senator. In Iowa, Republican State Senator Joni Ernst is leading Democrat Representative Bruce Braley. Braley has campaigned for the president's health care law and for more funding for Planned Parenthood. But Iowa Republicans are taking a page from the Democrats' playbook by encouraging early voting. That could pay off in the too close to call Senate race. I'm Suzanne LaFranchi for EWTN News Nightly.
All right, thank you, Suzanne. And lava from the Kilauea volcano continues to creep across Hawaii's Big Island. People in the small town of Pahoa sit and watch as the lava devastates and reshapes the area yard by yard. The flow is about 225 yards from the main road through the commercial center of the Big Island's agricultural community. While some people are moving and businesses are closing, others vow to stay. The lava is moving at a pace of about 5 to 10 yards an hour and has been flowing northeast toward the ocean since June. Well, San Francisco fans celebrate yet another World Series championship tonight, with the Giants leading the Royals 3-2 in Kansas City last night. Salvador Perez pops foul down in the third base line, and the ball is caught by Giants third baseman Pablo Sandoval. Game over. The Giants take the series 4-3 for their third championship in 5 years. Coming up, music and memory. Can music reduce the use of prescription drugs for people suffering from dementia? On Thursday, October 30th, you're listening and watching EWTN News Nightly. Let's remember to set our clocks back an hour Saturday night, or we'll be an hour early for Sunday Mass. Daylight savings time ends at 2 a.m. Sunday. It's easy to remember this year because it happens on All Saints' Day. Well, 29-year-old terminally ill woman who vowed to legally take her own life on Saturday is rethinking those plans tonight. In a newly released video, she says she's feeling better and still has, quote, enough joy. Wyatt Goolsby has more.
Brian, Brittany Maynard says she hasn't decided which day she will choose to die, but she does affirm that it is legally her choice. Right now, though, she says she wants to keep on living.
I still laugh and smile with my family and friends enough that it doesn't seem like the right time right now, but it will come because I feel myself getting sicker. It's happening each week.
In a new video, Brittany Maynard says she's enjoying life with her family and friends, but she has frequent seizures associated with incurable brain cancer. Back in April, doctors gave her 6 months to live. Because assisted suicide is illegal in her home state of California, she moved to Oregon and has become part of an advocacy group working to get assisted suicide laws passed in other states. A nationwide media campaign featuring Maynard's story went viral earlier this month. Numerous groups have voiced their support and offered prayers for Brittany and her family on social media. It's also sparked a debate about laws allowing euthanasia and assisted suicide. Archbishop Alexander Sample in Portland, Oregon, is sending out a message to the terminally ill.
It's to offer a word of hope to all people who would find themselves in the situation of a terminal illness, especially a terminal illness that may involve suffering.
Archbishop Sample says he can't offer an opinion on Maynard's situation, but he says it's important the church shows compassion to all those who are suffering.
I think one of the things that is lost in this whole discussion is precisely the role of family, of friends, of loved ones, and the impact that it has on us who go through that experience of walking through the experience of suffering and death with someone that's very dear to us, and the impact that has.
The practice of aid in dying, where a doctor can give a willing patient a lethal dose of medicine, is allowed in Oregon, Washington, Montana, Vermont, and New Mexico. The group Compassion and Choices is pushing for similar laws in 5 other states, including California. Brian?
All right, thank you, Wyatt. Jennifer Popick is a lawyer with expertise in medical ethics for the National Right to Life Committee. And Jennifer, because it is legal in Oregon, is this Brittany Maynard case unique for Oregon? Is it normal?
The Brittany Maynard case is unique in a sense that she's so young, and obviously that's something that's pulled at everybody's heartstrings. What I'm not so sure is, in Oregon, it's a lot of cancer patients and it's a lot of people who feel like they're becoming a burden. That's who's requesting it. But I'm not sure why people are applauding her. This is a suicide and this is a tragedy.
It is, and certainly with her doing this video, I know it's gotten a lot of attention, but the fact that she has now said, not now, I think is really quite amazing and an answer to a lot of prayers. The church teaches, of course, that we have these end-of-life issues. Euthanasia is morally unacceptable. However, Catholics are not required to extend their lives unnaturally, undergoing any possible medical treatment. So what if medical treatment is seen as excessively burdensome? What happens?
Sure, it used to be the case that doctors would do everything for us if we came into a hospital, but that culture has changed. And today, I think a lot of Catholics would be surprised to find out that food and fluids has now been something that doctors might try to withhold or try to encourage the family to withhold. And frankly, that's very different than this Brittany Maynard situation. What she's doing, this is a suicide. This is someone seeking a lethal prescription. And we're very concerned that treatment is, going downhill. This could become a broader problem.
So when we are faced with an end-of-life situation where there is a terminal illness, we're not required to extend our lives artificially, but in no case can we take our lives.
That's right. And, palliative care, pain management, these kind of conversations, this is a good thing to come out of this story. Hopefully more people are talking about it.
There are serious ethical issues that this whole thing confronts. Is it good that we are talking about it, and what are some of those issues that you think have come out of this?
Sure, I think it is good that we're talking about this. People need to make their wishes clear. I mean, we've all seen people die badly. That's why this tugs at our heartstrings. We've seen people suffer and die badly. And so this conversation is good because it exposes what kind of dangerous laws it is that assisted suicide advocates are promoting in the states. So this debate is good. So
what can we do, though, to safeguard our wishes or the wishes of our loved ones who, when they get sick, that their wishes are honored nearing the end of their lives?
Certainly. I think one thing we can all do is speak out against these kinds of laws if they're being promoted in your state. And the other thing we need to be doing is talking with our family about what we do and do not want. So these choices aren't put on adult children of the elderly, aren't something that we think about only in that crisis moment. We should think about it now, write down our wishes, and talk to our family and friends.
Of course, there's no real way to predict this, but I was just so actually overjoyed to hear today that she said she still has joy in her life and wants to continue to live. Do you think that this is going to really make an impression on people who have followed this story, to see that when it comes right down to it, that life is truly precious?
I hope it does. I mean, you know, you look at somebody in the situation, it's all of our fear, what's going to happen at the end of our life. And, you know, suicide is just simply not the answer, though. And we, you know, keep our thoughts and prayers with her.
Well, we talked with Christina Sand in California, who is in a similar situation, who chooses to live. And one of the things she said is she can really empathize with Brittany Maynard, because when you get to that place, how desperate that must feel. So we really need to be compassionate to people in this situation too, right?
Truly, you know, we look at people with mental illness and that commit suicide and we go, boy, what a tragedy. You know, we shouldn't. Robin Williams is a perfect example. And we, you know, focus on, you know, expanding mental health, but now we look at physical illness, and we should also be, you know, thinking what a tragedy that someone is afraid, or, you know, at the end of their life like this. There's other options. We don't solve problems by killing patients.
No, the National Right to Life Committee, Jennifer Popick joining us tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you. Well, researchers know that music helps to improve the mood of Alzheimer's patients. Could it also reduce the use of prescription drugs for those suffering from dementia? Catherine Elliott reports.
Music has always been a part of Mike Knutsen's life. Now suffering from dementia, it's helping him live that life.
We feel as though we have been blessed with this whole new experience with Dad. We are able to connect in a completely different way, in a very genuine way.
Knutsen is taking part in a study through the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee.
This is a study that, to look at the effects of music listening on a number of the quality of life indicators for the people with the dementia in nursing homes.
The popularity of the Music and Memory program, which brings music to dementia and Alzheimer's patients nationwide, has prompted the first big study to provide hard data. 200 Wisconsin nursing homes will be part of it by next year. Researchers put together a personalized playlist on iPods for each person.
We've seen members who don't talk very much start to sing.
Mike, I'm gonna put your music on, okay?
Yeah. 96-year-old Knutsen was sleepy, but when he heard big band music, he perked up.
You may see the immediate effects shown on the residents, but we don't really know if it has actually longer-term effects.
Researchers want to know how music affects mood and behavior, and whether one day the comforting sounds might be able to reduce prescription drugs. For Knutsen's family, the program has struck a chord.
The music really does something to wake him up and help him to be more engaged with what's going on around him.
And helps connect him to the outside world. Catherine Elliott, EWTN News Nightly.
Up next, Pope Francis makes headlines again, this time about the Big Bang Theory. We explore the reaction to his remarks. In case you haven't seen the latest tweet from Pope Francis, this is the latest from his official Twitter feed. The principal mission of the church is evangelization, bringing the good news to everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on Thursday, the 30th of October. So tomorrow is Halloween, which means Thanksgiving and Christmas are right behind. And the U.S. Postal Service is gearing up for the 15.5 billion cards, letters, and packages expected to go through the mail this Christmas season. The Postal Service recommends shipping gifts early using online postage and free package pickup services. It's also offering holiday stamps, packaging, and gift cards, hoping to boost sales. USPS.com posts suggested mailing and shipping dates for holiday gifts and cards to make sure they get there on time. Speaking of time, don't forget to set your clocks back before you go to bed on Saturday. And Mexican candy makers are hard at work preparing for the traditional Day of the Dead celebration. They're making candy skulls for the combination of All Souls Day with pre-Hispanic customs of offering food, cigars, even tequila to souls who have said to return for the day. Sugar is melted and poured into those clay molds to create the perfect skull shape, and they're often decorated with colorful sugar paints. In Mexico City, these sugary skulls are on display everywhere. They're also sugar coffins and sugary sweet rolls called dead bread and Catrinas. The Day of the Dead is celebrated in Mexico, Guatemala, Brazil, and parts of Ecuador. Well, Pope Francis recently made headlines for his comments on the Big Bang Theory. The Holy Father said that the Big Bang Theory and evolution of man do not contradict the role of God in the creation of humankind. He made his comments on a visit to the Vatican's Pontifical Academy of Sciences earlier in the week. The idea seemed to surprise some news outlets who saw something new in his remarks. It is good to welcome back Dr. Matthew Bunson, a senior fellow at the St. Paul Center for Biblical Theology. So why do you think there's so much buzz about these comments from Pope Francis? There's really nothing new to this, is there?
No, there's absolutely nothing new. Pope Francis is reiterating the teachings of the popes, especially the modern popes. But it's Pope Francis. So the media has a very different set of expectations. They choose to interpret what he says in very different ways. But there's the standard thing with Francis that the media tends to project on him what they want to hear. And even if Francis is saying, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, things that are absolutely consistent with the teachings of the Church, they try to present him as a revolutionary, as somebody who's breaking from the past, especially his most immediate predecessor, Pope Benedict.
They have framed him that way, certainly. So really, how long has the Church been open to these ideas, these theories?
Well, we can say that the Church has always been open to science. There's no war between faith and reason, between faith and science. This particular theory, the Big Bang Theory, for example, developed in 1927 by a Belgian priest, Father Georges Lemaitre.
That's right.
So we can say that the Church actually has given to the world the very theory that cosmologists use today to try to explain the origins of the universe and all life.
You don't usually hear about that, though, when they're talking about Big Bang, much less when Pope Francis remarks about it.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. So did Pope Emeritus Benedict, did St. John Paul II, did they address these issues of faith and science and how they really do come together?
They did. We can even go a little farther back to 1950 with the encyclical Humani Generis by Pope Pius XII, where he established that there is no contradiction between faith and science. And that was then carried forward, of course, by John Paul II with a remarkable speech he gave in 1981 to the Academy of Sciences, the Pontifical Academy, another one in 1996, and then Pope Benedict spoke frequently about that relationship, that important relationship between faith and reason, trying to rebuild Christian culture, but also to help people understand that the conflict that is supposedly long-running, we think of the Galileo affair between the Church and progress, is a myth. And Benedict really, throughout his entire theological career, has written about evolution. He's written about the origin of the universe.
Prolifically. He's such a fine writer and an incredible teacher. So what was the reaction to comments by Benedict, John Paul II, Pius XII, compared with the reaction to Francis?
Right. This is what's so interesting about Francis and the way the media treats him. Benedict in 2011 gave a beautiful homily on the Feast of the Epiphany, on the Magi, talking about the star, the nova and the supernova that they were following. And he questioned how far theories can take us, and was then attacked for being an enemy of the Big Bang Theory of progress. Francis says many of the same things, trying to point us to the deeper reality of creation, of God's created order, and he's hailed. But he's still seen in the light by the media as somebody who's trying to drag the Church, kicking and screaming, into the modern age. So it's a different type of a bias, but it's a bias nevertheless.
Absolutely. We'll have much more time to analyze this approach to Pope Francis by the media and to really look at the significance of his approach and the using of the communication tools that are available to us the next time we get together.
Looking forward
Dr.
to
Matthew Bunson, thanks for being with us.
Great pleasure to be with you.
And until tomorrow, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch again anytime you like on EWTN's YouTube page. For all of us here at EWTN News Nightly, I'm Brian Patrick. Thank you for watching tonight. Good night, and may God bless you.